you, right? Right? He believes that the only people who matter in this country are the billionaire class.
And Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat of Connecticut, and Congressman Maxwell Frost, Democrat of Florida, joined me now. Good to have you, gentlemen. Senator, I'll start with you. Just tell me about why do this event and what was it like?
Yeah, it was a crazy crowd, standing room only. There was overflow outside. We were limited only by the capacity of the venue. But listen, I mean, this is a national fight, and Republicans think that they can get away with this thievery, this corruption, this destruction of democracy by hiding. We have some really important votes coming before the Senate and the House this summer. Republicans are planning to vote on this bill that would throw millions of people off their health care, including lots of them here in North Carolina, in order to fund a tax cut for the billionaire class, people who don't need it. And Republicans are kind of hoping that in their backyard, their constituents won't hear about the truth because they're refusing to hold town halls. So Maxwell and I are committed this spring and this summer to be all over the country and hold town halls where Republicans won't. We only need to convince 3 or 4 Republicans in the House and the Senate to vote no against these cuts to save a lot of lives. Maybe we can find one here in North Carolina or one tomorrow in Missouri. That's our job, to bring this fight all across the country.
Congressman, I liked what you said there about, if you voted for Trump, sorry you're lied to, welcome to the team, because it seems to me that, we're seeing erosion in his numbers, and for, the public to turn against him at the scale that would be necessary to stop the harm that is being engineered, you're going to need folks that voted for Trump.
Exactly. This movement, and to win, we're going to have to be about addition, not subtraction. So it's not about telling people I told you so. It's not about shaming people for making a decision we disagree with, but it's about saying, I'm sorry you were lied to. This is why you've been lied to. This is what Trump is doing, taking away health care, taking away the things that working families have earned in order to give billionaires and mega corporations a tax cut. And then we can't stop there, because it's not just about defending, but then it's about showing them our vision of the world. And the great thing about these town halls is it's not just Democrats here. We have Republicans, Democrats. We have people who haven't voted before, all types of people who are upset with what's going on right now. And I'm sure you've seen this recent Fox News poll that shows that Donald Trump is completely underwater with his approvals, but also people do not trust him on the economy, on tariffs. People don't trust him on immigration. And so we have to continue to bring this message across the country. But I think it's imperative that when we say it with open arms. That's the whole point of this. We want to bring people into the coalition and not push them out.
Senator, we started talking at the top of the show about the polling that Congressman Frost was just talking about. And you just made a point that I think is really important, which is all of the stuff, that Trump is doing essentially unilaterally, often, I think, unlawfully and unconstitutionally. There's this weird kind of like tacit arrangement with Republicans in Congress who kind of like what he's doing but never have to vote for it. So it's like no one ever has to vote to defund a 30-year health study of postmenopausal women. No one has to vote to, do all this stuff, which they like because they're not popular votes. But that era is ending because they are now going to have to vote. And even if he's a lame duck or Trump's a sort of sui generis figure, do you think the polling in politics matters for your colleagues who are going to have to do the voting?
Yes, of course it does. Right. The worst thing that they are contemplating doing, probably the most unpopular thing they are contemplating doing, is this budget bill in which they are talking about $1 trillion of cuts to Medicaid. That's just throwing people off of their health care insurance overnight in order to fund $1 trillion of tax cuts for the richest 1%. That's deeply unpopular. And what we saw in 2017, Chris, is that everybody thought they were going to pass the repeal of Obamacare, but they didn't. They didn't because they had really slim margins in the House and the Senate, just as slim as they have now. And we were able to throw enough sand in the gears, mobilize people nationally just enough so that we defeated that measure. But the stink of that effort to repeal Obamacare still stuck with people. That was why they lost the midterms. And so politically, we should root for them not to get away with this because, if we stop the Medicaid cuts, it'll help a lot of people. But it's not as if the voters will excuse them for trying to do it, even if they don't get away with it. So, yes, we're here in North Carolina because there are a couple swing votes here in the Senate and in the House that might save a whole bunch of lives if they do the right thing when this bill to cut Medicaid and fund tax cuts for billionaires comes before the House and the Senate.
Yeah, Tom Tillis, your colleague in the Senate, is in cycle, meaning he's up for re-election in 2026. That is a state that Democrats just won statewide offices in this last election, even as Trump was being elected. And Congressman Frost, you know, those margins are very slim in the House. Up until now, it seems that the sort of combination of Trump, Musk, and their kind of discipline approach, you know, Musk is going to come in and primary you, drop $20 million on your head if you cross him, like, all that has kept them in line so far. And I wonder whether you think any of that starts to erode or they're still pretty tightly together.
No, we're starting to see some of it erode, and it has to do, I think, a lot with the people power we're seeing, a lot of the events we're doing, a lot of our other colleagues are doing across the country, and amping up that pressure. About a week ago, 12 Republicans sent a letter to Mike Johnson saying we can't vote yes on a budget that has massive cuts to Medicaid. I promise you they would have not sent that letter if it wasn't for activists, organizers, citizens going to these town halls, making sure they hear from them, the phone calls, things like what we're doing. All of this adds up and puts pressure on these people. And I think, honestly, the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, I think, showed that you can put all this money in, which is horrible. I mean, we need to end Citizens United. One billionaire shouldn't be able to put unlimited amounts of money into an election. But he can put $20 million in a Supreme Court race, and he can't buy it because the power of the people is more powerful than that amount of money that he wanted to put in there. And I think, honestly, that race is showing a lot of these Republicans that maybe I don't have to be as scared of Elon Musk and Donald Trump as I thought I had to be. But we can't completely rest on my Republican colleagues find the courage to do the right thing, and that's why we're out here and we're mobilizing the people. Yeah,
that letter, the 12 signatories of that letter saying these Medicaid cuts are going to be a bridge too far. We'll see if they hold to that, but that was, I thought, very significant. The math doesn't really work without it, but we'll see how they negotiate going forward. Senator Chris Murphy, Congressman Maxwell Frost, thank you both, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Still to come, the White House says Trump is closing